Gary and I, we were very close growing up. I really didn't understand that he had a disability because we didn't treat him any differently than you would treat any other brother in the family. It was a 20-year period that we didn't see each other. So when we finally reconnected, that was kind of nerve-wracking because after 20 years, I didn't know if Gary would remember me. During that time, he had lost his vision, and so he couldn't see me, so how would he know it was me? When he had vision, he knew a lot of sign language, and he would sign my name, make the letter L, and he would stroke his face for Linda. And so I made the L with my hand for him to feel, and he immediately put his hand to his cheek like he remembered.
Linda and I were dating while Gary was still home. So Gary was just part of the family. I had to learn some sign language.
When Gary went to North Jersey, my mom had said it reminded her of a hospital, and for her it gave her peace because a hospital is a place where you would get good care. And so even though the term institution was not taken very well, for her, she felt, well, there's medical staff, there's an infirmary, there's people around the clock, and so she always felt he would be safe, and he was. Well, North Jersey was closing, and so we needed as a family to look and see what was going to be next. We had wanted to look earlier, but my mom was very hesitant. Somebody reached out, and they represented a group of parents that were trying to educate other parents on the choices out there. And that's what led my parents to CLEP.
They all have children who have some kind of special needs. So you really felt like you were dealing with an extended family member who were helping you out and knew what you were looking for. Even if you didn't know what the word was you were looking for, they were right there to help you and say, okay, these people do this great, these people do that great, here's what you're looking for, here's the kind of questions you want to ask. Her mom passed before she could see all this through. But, there was 4 different agencies, I believe, we looked at.
Yes.
So we weighed out each one, and we made sure that we met with different people in the agency and visited the actual houses themselves. So it was very reassuring for both of us that when we went to visit places, we were prepared. When we came to the house that he's in now in Pine Beach, the house had the guardrails for him. He'd have his own individual room there. There was handrails, walk-in shower. The house had everything that he needed in it. And the staff itself, there was a level of comfort. You could tell that they were like a family. They weren't just caregivers.
The communication is excellent. They really keep us in the loop. They send pictures through email so we can see Gary out and about, enjoying his life.
So he picked up to it great. Gary has a tendency to bang his head. Immediately the staff said, we'll put padding on the wall around his bed.
All of our homes are gutted out and renovated to meet the needs of adults with visual impairments as well as developmental disabilities. So throughout our home, we have trail rails so they learn how to trail the homes. We have recessed lighting so those that have some vision are able to see better. We have rails and handicap accessible bathrooms. We have 2 vans that are wheelchair accessible. So we accommodate all the multiple handicaps of all of our individuals. Ultimately, if you find the correct group home with the correct staff, the individuals that have been put in institutions because they were deemed not to be able to do anything really can do a lot with a lot of care and a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of patience.
It's very key for everyone that's working with Gary to anticipate what he's feeling or what he wants. Again, because he is nonverbal, the way you're touching him is basically that's a way of asking him. And then if you direct him to the activity, he's very good at connecting that, and that's how we communicate. So just touch, your energy, and your direction, the way you're directing and prompting him, that casual interaction improves skills that he needs to do other things.
When he was in North Jersey, he ate very, very quick. And so early on, they determined that he was a choke hazard. And so they started changing his diet from a regular diet to a puree diet. They just felt it was safer and for him to drink his meals rather than eat his meals. But when he came out into the community, they, tried different things with him and saw he is very good at chewing. He does need supervision, but that's okay because they have people there.
Never underestimate the abilities of the individuals that are in the group homes. Just the improvement over the last year, many people may not have expected.
We would have liked an alternative for Maureen from day one, but there was nothing available.
She was adapting while she was at Vineland, but she was not developing.
Then the Olmstead Act came about, in which the state proclaimed that every person had the right to be treated and live as every citizen lived. And CLEP basically took us by the hand because we didn't know how to get started. She is now in a beautiful home with her own bedroom, her own specialized bathroom. They go out every day to the day program where she learns a little bit, as much as she can. They go to every fair and activity going on that's there. They go to have their nails done. They go bowling on Tuesday nights. They were just at the circus last Saturday.
And we've seen Maureen just develop and grow. It's just been amazing.
The developmental center, Maureen was not an individual. She was part of a group. I know they took care of her to the best of their abilities because Maureen was good. They always said she was such a good girl. She gave them no problems. But we worried because Maureen cannot speak. She cannot feed herself, cannot care for herself in any way. And when you leave someone behind like that, you just have to pray that people will meet her needs and she won't get hurt. Her house director, Pamela, knows her every need. She can look at Maureen and know she's not feeling well. Maureen is an individual right now and being treated like one.
Maureen was prone to seizures, and she had her first seizure 2 years ago. We brought her to the hospital, made us aware of it, and the staff stayed overnight with her. At Vineland, Maureen had developed stomach problems, and she had to go to the hospital. They took her to the hospital, and we immediately went down. The hospital was over 2 hours and 15 minutes from our house, and we would walk into the room, and Maureen was incubated. She had the tube down her, and she was by herself. And what a difference! What a difference! That in itself just speaks volumes about the advantages and the opportunities of the group home.
The Open Door of New Jersey has been here since 2008, and our mission is just to be the light at the end of the tunnel. We want to make our consumers as independent as possible and also give them the quality care that they deserve and the lifestyle that their parents always wanted them to have.
I always say, the way I live is you push until something happens. And me and Maureen, pretty much, that's the way that we deal with one another. She's not limited. I don't believe that she's limited to anything. So I want her to be able to experience the full quality of life like everybody else. So right now what we're working on, Maureen actually walks with assistance, which in the past they had actually said that Maureen won't be able to walk at all. Nor was she going to be able to hold her cup or do anything. Eye contact, they kind of just really checked Maureen off as just sit there and just leave her as comfortable as possible. But the word she can't and no, she won't, I think that I really latched on to those words and I continued to push with Maureen. Any given time, I will pick up the phone and call to check on the parents and see how they're doing. They will check in with me. They will come and do visits at the home with Maureen, Mr. and Mrs. Gallagher. And they're pretty much well involved. They're always a phone call away. But I must say that every time they come and we look at one another, I feel how grateful they are within their heart, and that allows me to know that I'm doing my part.
They had a first dinner dance in the spring, and Maureen was there with her roommates or her housemates, and at the dinner, and she was, getting it all, seeing what was going on, and so much aware of her surroundings. And the music was playing. I happened to bring her out onto the dance floor, and they were dancing, and I was rocking Maureen in a wheelchair to the music, and I thought to myself, 3 years ago, for me to be in this position of just envision a situation being like this was just totally out of the question. We would like to be there to answer any questions that any families who have loved ones in developmental centers, if they may have. If we can help them in any way, we'll be more than pleased to do it.
We have also gone with CLEP to visit the different schools that are still institution-based, and been there when there are parents who are really adamant in not removing their child into a private home. And we've been there to just try to help them understand and let them know what our situation is and how wonderful it is, in the hopes that they will just open their minds a little bit to look into CLEP and look into the advantages for their child. Some of them have great fears, I think, because they're getting older, like we are. We know that Maureen's in a safe place.
My younger sister, Sally, is developmentally disabled. When we were children in New Jersey, there were very few services for people with disabilities. In fact, there wasn't even a right to education until my sister was 9, so she wasn't even allowed to go to public school until that age. So it was a challenging time for our family. My parents really didn't have any help with my sister. And when Sally was 14, they sought placement, and the only option for her was North Jersey Developmental Center. It was about an hour-and-a-half drive to the center from our home. And my parents tried to visit her every weekend, but Sally had a very difficult adjustment. They would drive her back, and she would refuse to get out of the car. It was just very obvious she wanted to be at home. So eventually the center actually told my parents they wouldn't be allowed to see her for at least a year. Her behavior was so difficult that she was placed at Greystone Psychiatric Center for a period of time. When my parents started aging, they found it very difficult to have Sally home. The care was just too much for them. Eventually, I said to my husband, who had never met Sally, I just feel really bad about this, and I'm going to reestablish the relationship. Over the years, when we would visit Sally or she would come to our home, it was always very apparent to us that she was not happy where she was. Finally, we got a call at home from one of the state employees with the Division of Developmental Disabilities who said, we're calling everybody to say that North Jersey Developmental Center is slated for closure and people are going to move. And I said, well, that's interesting because we've wanted Sally to move and there have been no options. And at that time, she said, well, would it be okay if I got you in touch with the Community Living Education Program at Rutgers? So I remember calling Natalie at CLEP and saying, oh my God, what am I going to do? And it just was heartbreaking. A lot of us have pictures in our minds of what places are like, and sometimes that might be right, but sometimes it might be wrong. In our case, we were very pleasantly surprised, and my image in my mind was 30 years old. We found 21 Plus, the provider that my sister is living with, to be very responsive to us.
So when I first met Sally, she was hesitant. She didn't like sitting down a whole lot. She didn't like tending to task or hanging around. But we knew, the place for her to be was in the community because just everything Carol told me about her, what we'd read about her, even though she's nonverbal, she's very expressive. She makes her needs known very well. And she's a very intelligent lady. I think the best thing that families can do, and the CLEP program has done wonders with that, is educating families about what group homes are like and what they're all about, because I'm still shocked in this day and age that people will walk through the doors like, oh, I didn't know what this, I didn't know it would look so nice, or I didn't know it would be in a neighborhood, or, those types of things.
The word group home may give it a negative stigma, but I think once they come out and visit and see that it's just a normal house in a normal neighborhood, and see what the houses look like, see that people that live in the houses have choice of the decor of the room, and see that the people have choices in what they do, and that it really is their house.
To come to a group home, you're really going to get that hands-on experience, and the clients are going to develop relationships with the staff here, and it almost becomes like a family.
She was very introverted. She wouldn't make eye contact. She would not communicate. She'd stand on her own and just shuffle her feet. And it's been a year, maybe it's close to 2 years. In fact, it is 2 years, I think, this month. She now will make eye contact. She will make it known what she wants. She will actually go shake hands when she greets you, which is something that we never thought we'd see. She has experienced life by going to hairdressers, going to a physician, which was traumatic because she never did it. She's been out sailing. She's been to the theater. She's been to the movies. She went to Atlantic City. Some with us, some with the group home, but totally different person.
I've said to Ken many times, I wish my dad was still alive. I think he would just be overjoyed. I would just say, Dad, my God, look at Sally now. God, she has a life. She's happy, she's smiling, she's made friends, she's formed relationships. And you know what? The best thing, Dad, one of the neatest things for me, and I think for a family, I go to the ShopRite to buy groceries, and it's possible now that I'll run into my sister doing her grocery shopping. It's just been like a miracle. I feel like I have my sister back.